If you've ever been in contact with a narcissist, then you're probably familiar with that very shocking moment that you recognize that this person has absolutely no capacity for empathy. They feel none of it for you. They are unaffected. It's almost unreal. And you think back to the times when they had so much empathy in the beginning. They were so kind about that. They were there for me about this situation. I talked for an hour about that, and they listened the whole time, and they were so supportive. And you just feel so baffled and so eerie. It's almost like at that time you knew they seemed too good to be true. You knew that. You felt it a little bit back then, but it was so great that you just kind of overlooked it. You swept past it. You thought nothing of it until now. You're sitting in front of them, and they're coming off as almost inhuman. It's jarring. It's hard to accept that behind that facade, all that time, the disturbing reality that you're seeing now, it was always there, lying right behind that facade of a mask. They look like the person you know. You're looking at them. You're like,
I know you, but you're not you.
and it's so unsettling. It's like you look so human, like the person that I connected with, but there's something about you. It's not human. It's not human. It's not human. It's not human. Today, we're diving into the fascinating yet unsettling topic of the Narcissist's Uncanny Valley. You might have heard of the Uncanny Valley in robotics, AI, animation. Uncanny Valley refers to when something looks too real, where something looks almost human, but not quite. It makes you feel icky.
Yuck!
It's like that spot where you got a little too close to the real deal, but you missed the mark a little bit, just enough to where it makes people very uncomfortable. And this is known as the Uncanny Valley. The term was not introduced at first in Narcissism. It was introduced in regards to robots and in regards to animation. So people who worked in those fields came to notice through studies and different failed projects that there was a certain spot where things became a little too real, but not real enough. There was a valley where it just wasn't cool anymore, just enough to make people quite uncomfortable. And that's what people reported. So people who created animations, they learned to avoid this uncanny valley because people don't like it. They don't want to see that. It doesn't make them feel good. To show you what I mean, take a look at this picture. How does this picture make you feel? Pretty cool, right? I don't feel intimidated. It looks like a pretty cool robot. Awesome. Now take a look at this picture. Yikes.
Yikes.
That is the thing of nightmares. So what is so different between these two? This one looks much more like a human, right? But not quite. It's not a human. It's too much like a human. That's the problem. But it is not a human. So this is the Uncanny Valley. This is the one that makes us get the jeepers creepers. Our brain just knows that's not right. That's not making the mark. Narcissists can create a similar effect in their relationships. They appear charming and personable and sweet and empathetic and having emotions and caring and all of that at first. It seems like the real thing. No one questions it, but the closer you get, the more you realize that something is terribly off. In this video, we'll explore how this concept applies to narcissistic behavior and why it's so important to recognize these signs so you don't get creeped out and get stuck in an uncanny valley. Let's start with what we see first when we meet a narcissist. Narcissists are notorious for love bombing. We see a very charming person at the beginning, but they switch rather quickly from charming to cruelty when they switch from their love bombing stage to their devaluation stage. This sudden change can be very jarring for anyone going through it. It's not a pleasant experience. One moment they're showering you with compliments, and the next they're criticizing and demeaning everything you do, the way you breathe, the way you talk, the way you stand, the way you exist. This switch is a hallmark of narcissistic behavior. It's one of the most telling moments. This always happens. If you're dealing with a narcissist, this switch will happen, and it's very evident when it happens. You will know that something has occurred, something has switched. Sometimes not in the moment, because you'll want to explain it away. Because your brain, your heart, your feelings, everything will be already invested. They don't do this until you get attached to them, and they feel like they have you, and they have your trust. So you're not going to want to believe that that's what you're seeing. So you miss it a bit. You explain it away. But it happens. It happens every time. Hands down with a narcissist, this always happens. This switch is all about maintaining control and keeping you off balance. They are aiming to sweep that rug right out from under your feet. They believe in their mind that you have done something to deserve to be treated that way. They don't usually recognize that they've done this in all their relationships. They just do what most of us do. They are blind to their patterned behavior until it comes to light, or they are forced to look at it. And narcissists actually tend to be a group of people that don't ever come to see it. They very successfully blame it on others, the people that they're targeting, forever. You soon find out that the charm was never genuine. It was all just a tool to get you hooked. When you go through this switch, you're going to feel like, I often called it the Twilight Zone. I must be in the Twilight Zone. That's the uncanny valley. You're seeing something that looks like the remnants of the person that you once were so in love with and that was just treating you so great, but they are not acting that way anymore, and it feels wrong. It feels off. It feels like they're doing an injustice to you. They can't be that inhumane towards you. They can mimic emotions, though. This is the part that gets very confusing. Once again, they're going to show you something that looks very human, very empathetic, but they don't actually feel these feelings. They don't actually feel any of those feelings. This makes it very easy for them to use people for their own gain. They idolize you in the beginning. They think that you are the perfect person. And it's only a matter of time before you let them down, which spawns the devaluation stage. But in the beginning, they have a sixth sense to know how to just mimic everything that you would want them to be. It just snaps right into gear. They just do it automatically. They don't even know why. You seem like their perfect person. So they want to meet your needs and standards. Even if it's not who they're going to maintain to be, they will become and present as everything that you want them to be at that time. And they will be quick to turn into your worst nightmare as soon as you show that you tricked them. You are not actually perfect. How dare you not be perfect? They hate when they see your imperfections for the first time. The moment you show the slightest imperfection about yourself to the narcissist, they feel bamboozled. They feel tricked. They feel like,
this little weasel that got their way into fooling me.
That's when their entitlement kicks in, their arrogance kicks in, and they immediately decide,
This person's not perfect.
and then they start to further examine you with a lens of trying to pick out all of your flaws. It's called flaw finding. They're going to find every flaw that you have, and they are going to ruminate on those flaws all the time and think of nothing good about you anymore. And this is then when the devaluation stage kicks in. And often you will notice that it seems like the narcissist no longer can employ any empathy. It's like they have no feeling for you at all. They can't even imagine how much they're hurting your feelings. You are telling them, you're hurting me, and they have a face of stone, and they don't care. And you're like, hello, are you in there? And they're not. And it's the moment that you see the uncanny valley. They see others as tools to be used and then discarded, not as individuals with their own feelings and their own needs. You might be wondering,
What did I ever do to deserve this? What did I do to this person to ever deserve to be treated this way?
I mean, you obviously injured them. What? You hurt them. You slighted them. You caused an injury. And it's called the narcissistic injury. Ouch! And the thing about how you caused this injury is that you absolutely didn't. It was already in there, and it can be caused by the slightest misstep by you. It's not even a misstep, really. It's all about what they perceive, and whether it's there or not, they will perceive it. They will find it, and they will be injured, and it will be your fault. Because when a narcissist's fragile self-esteem is threatened, they can react with extreme anger and rage, or they can react with a more diabolical feeling, passive-aggressive, quiet, controlled contempt for you. They might say something really freaking rude to you that only they know because you shared something really private with them, and they'll just say it straightforward to you with such poise, as though it fit right there in that sentence, in that conversation you were having, but it doesn't. And it's about your worst trauma or your worst fear or the biggest secret you ever told to somebody. And they just work it right in there all of a sudden. And you don't even know what you did to deserve it. You're like,
Wow, why'd you say that?
and they just will go on And they don't care that they just hurt you because you hurt them first. You already injured them first. It can really be triggered by anything. It can be triggered by challenges to their grandiose self-image, such as criticizing them or rejecting them. But just remember, you don't actually have to injure them at all. You don't actually have to criticize them or reject them. They just have to perceive that you did. And you will get this reaction. You might just be saying something that has nothing to do with them. You might just be observing that there's dishes in the sink, and they might think that you're trying to say that they don't do the dishes enough. You might have a headache and go to bed early. They do that all the time, but when you do it, they see that as a rejection because you didn't realize that they wanted you to watch something with them because they didn't say that, but they will hold it against you, and you might get the narcissistic rage or the passive-aggressive jab at you. Their reaction is disproportionate to whatever you did, or if you didn't do anything. And that can be quite terrifying. The reason this happens is because narcissists maintain a grandiose self-image. They have a very inflated sense of self. They quite literally believe they are superior to others and that they deserve special treatment. They're entitled to it. And that the self-image that they have, it's like a shield that's protecting that fragile little ego that they have in there. So think of the narcissist as on the inside. They're this shivering little, kitten or something. They're so fragile. They're shivering in the cold. They don't have any fur left. It's all fallen out. They're just looking so pitiful in there. Just so fragile. Any little thing can just poof, they leave on. That's where the narcissistic wound can happen. So this grandiose sense of self is what they need to be able to survive when they have that on the inside. That's why they need it. So they go around and they act superior to everybody. This issue is not conducive to quality relationships, so they clearly struggle in relationships. They're going to struggle all the time, every relationship that they're in. But they're going to blame it all on the other person, obviously. They can't handle any form of criticism, any perceived slight. It's always going to be something that you're doing to them, even if they made it up in their head. And they do this so often and so naturally that they don't even quite know they're doing this to you. They really feel justified. They really feel warranted. They really feel like you're a huge error. They really feel like you're lower than them and you deserve for them to treat you that way. And they really do think you're slighting them. This is where you're going to see a lot of the uncanny valley because I'm telling you, even in my relationship that I was in, I constantly felt like I was seeing this uncanny valley. I always felt like this feeling of like,
Could he have really meant it that way, what he just said? Like that? Wait, is that related to what I think it's related to? That's rude. That is so rude. Whoa, he couldn't have meant that.
and it just would blow my mind. Just things that were so upsetting. Another thing that they do that really makes you feel like you're in the uncanny valley is their projection. They are the masters of projection. A really good way to understand what the narcissist is doing and what is going on inside of them is to look at all the things that they accuse you of. They accuse you of doing towards them. They accuse you of feeling what you're thinking and what you're doing or what you're gonna do. This is all coming from how they believe a person behaves. And the way that they know a person behaves is because they know how they behave internally. And so they're telling on themselves constantly because many of these things will be things you would never think to do and you were not doing. And you'll be like,
Where are you getting this from?
they're getting it from what they would do, what they do all the time. It's always a projection. Narcissists often project their own faults and their own insecurities onto others. If they're feeling jealousy or insecure, they'll tell you,
"You're very jealous. You're very insecure."
when they in fact are that way all the time. And you're just dealing with it. You might never get jealous. You might be very reasonable. And they'll be like,
"You're so jealous. You're so jealous. I can't believe you just asked me that. That's none of your business."
when you just asked about their coworker, how they're doing, or something like that. They'll be like,
"Wow, you're so weird."
it's just a way for them to deflect the blame onto you and protect that self-image because, again, that little fragile ego in there is just hiding away and they have to keep that shield up because when they get that narcissistic wound, you're going to see the alley cat come out, the one that wants to scrap, the one that wants to hurt you. As you get closer to them, you start to notice all these discrepancies between that charming facade that you saw in the beginning, who they present themselves as to people that are still on the outside, and their true nature. This is going to create a sense of unease and confusion in you. just forever confusion. I remember I was so often in a state of confusion. It almost became my natural personality, I thought. I was like,
I'm always confused. That's who I am. My name's Alyssa. I'm confused. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm confused. I'm always confused.
the more you see behind that mask, the more unsettling the relationship becomes, and you eventually feel like you are in a relationship with a complete stranger. You will feel like this is a very odd person. That's the part that's going to feel very uncanny. So to sum it all up, narcissists can create an uncanny valley effect in relationships because their charming exterior hides the darker reality of their manipulation, their cruelty, their lack of genuine empathy. So why am I telling you all of this? Well, ending up in a relationship with a narcissist can be pure torture. It can be a lot of pain. It can cause a lot of damage on you. So recognizing these signs is crucial to protecting yourself from their toxic influence. And the only way to really protect yourself from their toxic influence is to recognize it early on and leave the relationship when you still feel empowered to do so. Because they're going to strip you of that empowerment little by little, piece by piece. It's always best to get out of that relationship as soon as possible, as soon as you see it. Because this never ends well. Remember that you deserve relationships that are real and nurturing and deep, not ones that are built on deception and false masks, and not ones that make you feel uncanny. Now, if you had any experience with a narcissist, I want to hear your stories in the comments below. Your insights could really help others in these similar situations. Also, be sure to check out my video on how to tell the difference between a person who is just a dismissive avoidant and when you're actually dealing with a narcissist, so you don't get those two different types of behaviors conflated. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you click that bell icon so you never miss a video. Thank you for watching. I love you. You're so great. You're never going to end up in a relationship with a narcissist, and you will not be in the uncanny valley. No, we are on mountaintops. We are on hills, and we are on pedestals. We are never in valleys, okay? You will not roll into the ravine with these dust bunnies or these fragile little sewer cats, okay? I love you. Bye.